Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Fiber Broadband Association's Fiber for Breakfast. We're now in our 41st episode of 2025. Before we kick off, I'd like to thank Wesco, the platinum sponsor of Fiber for Breakfast. The Fiber Broadband Association is getting ready for its next Regional Fiber Connect workshop in Scottsdale, Arizona, next Thursday, October 16th. This workshop will put a strong focus on tribal broadband, and we look forward to hearing from Nicholas Capozzi, the Arizona Broadband Director, and from Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs. So you're not going to miss that. Also next week, we're holding our final Latin America Fiber Connect event in Bogota at the beginning of the week. After Scottsdale, our next Fiber Connect workshop will be in Kansas City on November 11th. That'll be our final workshop of the year, and then we'll end the year with our premier member meeting in Palm Springs on December 8th and 9th. So look forward to seeing you at one or both of those events coming up. Today on Fiber Breakfast, our guest is Bryan Darr with Ookla to discuss how speed test measurements are designed to improve end user experiences. But before I formally introduce today's guest, I'd like to introduce David Norris from our team, who's going to walk us through some housekeeping items. Last week on Fiber Breakfast, our guest was Dr. William Adderholt, the Executive Director and co-founder of Grand Farms, who discussed the future of agriculture grows on fiber. Dr. Adderholt shared with us why fiber broadband connectivity is so critical for the future of agriculture. Fiber broadband is the foundation for all farm connectivity, from drones and soil sensors to robotics and management platforms. This reliable, high-capacity connectivity is critical, enabling innovations that are needed to address major farming pain points such as pest management, animal health, and AI contexts. Developing farm-specific AI models are key to the future of agriculture. So if you missed last week's session, you can go to our website and watch the replay. Today on Fiber for Breakfast, our guest is Bryan Darr from Ookla, who's going to discuss how speed test measurements are designed to improve end-user experiences. Bryan is the Vice President of Government Affairs at Ookla, spearheading the company's program for federal, state, and local government. He also leads Ookla's advocacy efforts with lawmakers and policy organizations, promoting the value of crowdsourced intelligence to help with better data-driven decisioning. Bryan has spent most of his professional life in telecom, beginning his career as a sales representative for Cellular One of Memphis in 1985. After discovering his customers were having difficulty traveling with their phones, he founded Mosaic in 1988, originally branded as American Roamer, and began developing customer roaming guides. Soon, Mosaic was researching and designing mobile operator coverage maps, enabling them to market the reach of their mobile networks. The company ultimately built a global catalog of mobile network spectrum and coverage, as well as developing and acquiring other telecom-related data sets. In June of 2018, Mosaic was acquired by Ookla. Bryan has served on many industry committees during his career, currently serves on CTIA's Smart Cities Working Group, WIA's Innovation Technology Council, and the Wireless History Foundation Board of Directors. So welcome, Bryan. Always love having you as a guest. And for our audience, please type in your questions as go, and we'll work those in discussion. So with that, I will turn things over to Bryan.
Well, thank you, Gary. It's always great to talk to you. Thanks for having us back. This is great. We have, I think everybody knows we've got a lot of information that is collected through our crowd that uses the speed test app. We also have Down Detector, which is now built into the speed test app. And it's worth mentioning that sometimes people do take a speed test when they're having a difficult experience, right? There's a lot of reasons why people take a test, but sometimes they're just curious. They're getting ready to get on an event like what we're having right now, and they want to make sure their connection's good. They might change their plan with their subscriber, with their ISP, and they want to make sure that they're getting what they paid for, and they want to see that faster speed, perhaps. But a lot of times, when you have an experience situation, someone's having a difficult experience, then what we actually see is that it's not always the ISP's issue. Very often it's the site that they're trying to reach. And that might be that Netflix is having a problem. Disney, Hulu is having a problem. It might be their bank website that's down. There's a whole variety of reasons why people can have a poor experience. So understanding that is critical. And we acquired Down Detector a number of years ago, and it's now right in the middle of the bottom of the screen on the speed test application for both iOS and Android, so that you can access that and see sometimes it is that, which services may be having a problem, and if other people may be having difficulties with their experience with the same services. We have been working closely with both the NTIA and the state broadband offices themselves as they have been rolling out their plans for BEAD. I think we're all well aware of the fact that there's not a single home that's yet been hooked up with BEAD funds, but that doesn't mean that there hasn't been a lot of activity going on, because there have been a lot of network expansions going on anyway, as ISPs themselves have undertaken this and put their own investment in place. And we have states that have utilized ARPA funds, and you still certainly have other federal programs that have helped push broadband availability out, into areas that didn't have them before. And this has taken place across a variety of technologies. Fiber has certainly been, the most significant build out that we've seen in terms of the new homes passed and new services available, but others, which I certainly am sure we'll talk a little bit about today, Gary, are playing a role in this as well. And so what we're looking at is, as BEAD really gets going here and we start seeing the investments being made, states and the federal government both have a responsibility to make sure that this money has been spent wisely, and that the consumer is getting and the taxpayer is getting what they've been paying for. What are we getting back for that investment? And that's some of the things that I'd like to talk to you about today, Gary, or how states can really track these trends. There's an opportunity as we have had more and more state governments actually step forward and want to start tracking the investments that they have already made. We have so much data that there actually is a significant difficulty with some of them who don't have internal resources with GIS, geographic information systems, to map this data and compare it against what's actually happening out in the field with consumers versus what is being reported to them by ISPs. We certainly saw a lot of issues with the FCC broadband data collection process and the map that was first released several years ago and has been updated a number of times since, in terms of disagreements, whether or not this given area is covered, what was reported by the operator, and what people actually can get, what they can order, and what they can experience in a given area. One of the points that we're making with these state broadband offices is that just putting the money out and providing an award and getting that network built, that's just a first step. And going out and physically making sure that we see those fiber strands, that have been either put up in an aerial situation or, put in the ground, to connect all of these homes. That's an important part of that, to go physically capture that information. But on an ongoing basis, that's not realistic to expect to be able to pay for that kind of a service on an ongoing basis. We've got years and years that it's going to take to get all of these networks expanded and new networks built. And during that period of time, you're going to have increases in adoption. You're going to have continued increase in demand. And it's one of the concerns that people have about, will these networks that are being built ultimately have the capacity necessary to meet future demand? And so watching the trends that take place on these networks is critical. If you just go out and measure the networks when they are first built, you might have a 20, 30, 40% adoption rate. Well, what happens in 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years as that adoption rate could significantly increase. We see these capacity issues now where, think about just how people use the internet. For download is video, video is the download hog, right? That's what really eats up so much bandwidth. And people get home at night and they turn on Netflix, they turn on Prime or YouTube, and they're watching television in a way that is so different than what we grew up with. Each one of those streams, is an individual data stream, and so that tends to really strain the capacity of these networks as that's taking place. If they are built with enough capacity, it's not an issue. If they don't have enough capacity, then as they add more people onto the system, then you can start seeing degradation, of the experience that people are having. So that's a big part of what we're talking about here. And I'd like to show you a dashboard that we've actually built to help these state broadband folks track this. And let me share my screen with you here, Gary. This is just a couple of screenshots I'm going to share from a dashboard. This is actually built in Esri, ArcGIS Online, this is an example of Colorado, where you can see county by county, how these individual areas are doing. And this is built to go all the way down to the census block group level. Down at the block level, sometimes some blocks don't even have any people in them, or have very, very few people in them. But at the block group level, which is what NTIA has been using to really determine eligibility for some of these areas, then this provides that kind of insight. And it's an ongoing view, so that we've got historical data that states can use to really understand where have we been, where are we today, and ultimately, track that into the future. This kind of breaks this down county by county and can show download speed, upload speed, latency, jitter, those main metrics that everybody's looking at. Then we have this example here, where even looking at counties, and again, as I said, by block groups, and I won't go that deep on our call today, but where you can actually see, which counties are improving, which ones are sort of status quo, haven't seen any significant change, and what counties may actually be having or moving backwards. They're starting to have problems. They're not.
What about? This is Colorado, which shockingly they awarded LEO to a huge part of their allocation. So this says fixed network. So do you have to change this to be able to track their LEO then?
Yes, so we are rolling out a separate satellite view as well. That's coming here within the next couple of months. And we do have it separated out so they can independently look at fixed and satellite, and we will have wireless coming too. But to give you an idea, since you brought up satellite, this could be a good opportunity to share this. And these aren't slides. This is actually a platform that we have called Speed Test Insights that is rolling out a lot of different data sets so where they can all be compared and analyzed together. And so this is Starlink, and let me show you here, what this download speed looks like. And first, let's talk about different areas of the country. I'm sure a lot of people are well aware that in areas of high congestion, Starlink is actually charging a bit extra, where they've sold a lot of sites, and you've got high density. So you're talking about urban and suburban areas primarily. Then, they're actually putting on a little bit of an upcharge to make sure that, they don't oversell the current capacity that they have. Now, there's new spectrum that'll be coming online. All technologies are improving, but keeping up with this growth, is going to be the big question moving forward. And as we look here at Washington State, these are some of the highest priced areas in terms of the additional congestion charge. So we're looking at, $500 is what's been announced, for areas like Seattle and Portland. And that's fairly clear. You can see by looking at the legend here that areas that are in red or fair are areas that we might consider poor. And we actually have the ability to just make a difference, put in a different number and represent whatever we want to on screen. And so I've currently got this set as 0 to 50 is poor, 50 to 100 is fair. And then understanding that the federal government has set 100 down. We are looking at download here. We could look at upload separately. But the minimum here is 100 that they should be reaching. Now, these are median speeds and other things can impact that. But the point that I really want to make here is that as we look across the entire country, take note that in areas that are not highly populated, out here in Montana, down through Nevada, Arizona, up through, North Dakota, we've got a lot more green for good and a few areas that are excellent. But when you get into high congestion areas here in the Seattle, Portland area, and then we take a look down here into the Southeast across the, West Virginia, down here into Texas, these areas show a lot more orange and quite a bit more red areas.
But this is on average though, right? Because that's and that's when we see anybody that has crappy broadband, they use averages, and we know the internet is more peaking is everything. So if you're in the middle of the super green area in the middle of nowhere and your neighbor wants to download the latest video game or something, or try to upload something, that's going to have a huge impact.
It certainly can. How big the file is, its resolution, those all have an impact. But I want to point out that what we're looking at here, this is the previous 12 months, and we're looking at the evening hours. Now, we've got 4 time zones represented here on the screen. So I just picked 5 to midnight to kind of represent East Coast to West Coast when those, significant capacity hours are. And then I'm going to turn on, I'm actually showing on this map, I'm showing the full 24 hours. And now I'm going to turn on the view that shows the evening hours. So you can see how much more red and orange starts to show up in the map when we've got a lot more downloading going on. And so this is just I think a pretty, makes it fairly apparent, the kind of impact that they can have. And even out here in these areas that are very rural, in these large square states, as people like to say, we see a lot more red and orange popping up during those hours. Now, we can show this type of differentiation for any network, fixed or mobile, whether it's fiber, satellite, cable, and each of these different ISPs we can actually turn on and view in a map.
Are we looking at actual subscribers or just locations?
So we're looking at, this is, if I zoom in on this, I think you'll get a little better view of it. Just zoom into an area, and these are aggregated into hexagons. So these are this is the same hexagon pattern that the FCC is using for the map, the National Broadband Map.
Right. So the 880,000 subscribers, BSLs that are going to end up with Starlink or Kuiper, they're not on this yet, or are they included in this?
No, these are actual current readings that we're seeing from existing Starlink customers.
So this is just from Starlink customers?
Yes.
So even before, this is what it looks like before you even add in another 1 million subscribers.
That is correct. Now we're looking, as I said, we're looking at median speeds. And so you'll have subscribers' own behavior and what kind of equipment they have on their side of the gateway that's going to have an impact. Again, this is true for fiber providers, for cable providers, et cetera, that internal user behavior can impact that. But again, I want to show you, going back to, that 24-hour view, it's significantly improved across many areas when you're not having those, evening rush hour periods where everybody's sitting down to watch their favorite shows.
So you just have to schedule your telehealth session at 3 in the morning. So find a doctor on the right time zone.
Well, let's hope it's not that serious. But the point that we're trying to make here is that with these the state broadband offices really do need to be watching whether or not the providers that they've chosen to cover the BSLs that have been awarded are able to keep up with this. And
so let me ask you this question then, Bryan.
Sure.
So, I mean, fiber providers, no problem, right? Everybody will have gigabits and they'll have no problem meeting any kind of requirements now into the future. But when you look at this nearly 1 million subscribers in BEAD that are going to be relegated to Starlink, and so the service is already available. So what the government's paying for, I guess, is some kind of capacity guarantee. So how is the state broadband office going to hold Starlink and Kuiper to some kind of SLA?
Well, the guidance from NTIA does give any awardee a period of time to actually get their network not only out there built, but to meet certain speed requirements. And that certainly holds true from the satellite providers as well. And of course, Starlink isn't the only one. We're going to see Amazon Kuiper has been awarded, quite a lot of BSLs as well. And there are other services coming down the road. So all of these can help increase capacity. There is new spectrum that's becoming available to them that will help as well. But I mean, you do raise a good point. Fiber providers, if they have enough infrastructure in the ground or hung in an aerial type of deployment, then they've got quite a lot more capacity perhaps available to them to start. But they still need to be concerned about capacity from not only from their own network, but connectivity back to the greater internet.
To the POP and so forth, yeah.
The capacity issue is in several stages. The capacity issue is impacted in what's in the home as well. And if you have subscribed to a low level of service, regardless of what technology is being used, and you have too much going on in your home, you have a capacity problem. If the ISP hasn't put enough infrastructure to your home or within the general area where you subscribe, you have a capacity problem. If they have not subscribed to enough backhaul to the internet itself, and we have seen this across all technologies, we have seen this happen where they may have built really high capacity capability out to the consumer, but they didn't have enough broadband enough backhaul capacity available to them, which is why middle mile is important. But making that investment commitment as well is critical. But when it comes to anything that falls into the wireless category, you've got some additional requirements. How do you increase capacity of a network, right? And infrastructure is the first thing. I grew up in the wireless sector, but now we're using wireless for some of the fixed build out, and whether that's satellite or wireless ISPs. So infrastructure is the quickest, easiest thing to roll out to improve that capacity. You put new towers out. You put new satellites in orbit.
So the states, they have their 4.2 million BSLs that they're going to connect. And so are all the states going to be using Ookla or something like this to be able to monitor, to keep an eye on, making sure that everybody who's been awarded BSL is delivering the minimum statute and scalability, has scalability requirements?
Well, Gary, a lot of states already are using Ookla. There's a good number of states that we've been working with that aren't quite at this stage yet. They have not really started tracking the build outs and the performance of these networks. And we hope that more of them will start using us for that purpose. There was a lot of folks that used us, during the challenge process, understandably. And until NTIA actually comes out with final guidance, then I'm not sure that some states are going to be ready to take that next step until they know exactly what's going to be required of them from a federal oversight standpoint. But yeah, go ahead.
No, last week I was in Polk County, Tennessee, this gorgeous, gorgeous area. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, it's zero connectivity. And so, of course, I needed to be able to go connect to the internet and connect. So I went to Hardee's trying to get on their Wi-Fi. And I couldn't even open a PDF file. And so I tried to go to your website to do a speed test to say, it's so frustrating, wasting so much time just trying to do basic email. And it wouldn't even render your website. I couldn't even hit the go button to test. How low a bandwidth do you have that can't even render your website?
Yeah, and if you can't load a PDF, you've got to ask how much trouble they have with credit card transactions, and things like that, right?
Well, I had gone to the Dollar General first to try to get on Wi-Fi, and they're like, it's just enough to do our, point of sale. Yeah. And so again, it's so disappointing that Polk County is one of these areas that was stuck with LEO now. So nothing will change in that going forward.
Well, hopefully it'll get somewhat better, but are we going to see, fiber level speeds and capacity in the area? Certainly it's going to be quite a long time before they are going to be able to experience that. But, any of these technologies would be better than just the DSL that they may have had, for years and years. It'll all be an improvement. But I know that you're, certainly in your organization are big advocates of building for the future and maximizing, the capacity that ultimately will be needed to run the applications of the future.
So now as we move into AI applications, and that's accelerating, how are you guys adapting, and what's Ookla look like in the AI environment?
Well, it's multi-pronged. There's not just one thing that we're doing in the AI space. Yeah. Like so many other companies, we're trying to make ourselves more efficient. We're using it for a variety of internal.
All your modeling, that's no brainer. Yeah.
Right. But when you take a look at the amount of data that we have and the different types of data from different types of networks, and we really haven't even talked about customer quality of experience data. We've talked a little bit about experience because people do take speed tests when they are curious about what that experience is for a variety of reasons. But we're actually measuring experience, and we expect AI to play a big part in helping us ultimately pinpoint where lots of people or groups of people may be having experience issues. That could help pinpoint areas where infrastructure needs to be improved, where infrastructure or where networks need optimization in many instances. And so, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I just, in my quarterly letter, I cited a study that just came out a few weeks ago that showed a direct correlation between AI usage and the quality of your connection. So, people on fiber, 75% use AI applications on a daily basis, and with cable, less so, wireless, less so, fixed wireless, and then down when you get to LEO, less than 10% are participating in AI. Are you guys going to be tracking AI applications and looking at that by type of facility, or kind of looking at anything like that?
Well, we are already tracking the kind of experiences people are having when they're using video, when they're using text, when they're gaming. We're tracking time to load on a web browser. Yeah. And the kind of latency that can latency issues that can negatively impact that gaming experience. All of that is critically important. Speed is extremely important to be able to deliver that, and it's important from a regulatory standpoint because it is a clear measurement of what networks can ultimately provide. But it is the experience of the consumer that impacts things like churn. If your customers are unhappy with you, then it doesn't matter why. They are at risk for leaving and going, if they have another option, they're at risk for leaving and going to that other provider.
Well,
And
it certainly matches our studies that show that, once you get gigabit and beyond, it's all about latency. The latency becomes a long pole in the tent. And so, and then as we move into more AI, latency is king. So we're certainly that.
And you've got these technologies like, Meta's releasing new glasses with their, through their Ray-Ban partnership. Yeah. These concepts of augmented reality, they're really still in their early stages at this point. As those types of things are adopted, I mean, latency is critical to being able to use it and not just getting effectively seasick. If you don't have,
exactly.
Really, really near the edge kind of situations where that latency can be kept as low as possible, that's going to impact those experiences. And
it's like the arbitrage when they put fiber in for high frequency traders, right? I mean, everybody's going to be looking for any kind of millisecond advantage. Well, Bryan, you always have so much great data. I love talking to you. Appreciate all the work that you and your team are doing to really help our industry understand data and performance better. So thank you guys for that. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and I look forward to getting back there next Wednesday. We have our good friend Jeff Hainan, Vice President of Broadband Access and Home Networking at Dell'Oro Group, to discuss how Dell'Oro Group's 5-year broadband access and home networking forecast is going to look. So you're not going to want to miss that. Jeff always has some great views on what's going to happen in the next 1 to 5 years. So thanks, everyone. Thanks again, Bryan. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys soon.